Hi, welcome. On this video, I want to respond to some of these dog trainers out there on social media who want to challenge what I'm saying regarding the criteria, okay, to assess the current state of the relationship as well as create change, okay, by way of a intentional interaction-based method that reconciles the core ingredients that talk about influence and control in a very specific way. And so these trainers are out there saying, well, via their leash method, okay, they're still able to achieve the same result with like the 1 percentile dog. And they're going on. Here's the thing. That's absolutely not how it works, okay? And this is where, okay, and you listen to these trainers, this is where the statement keeps popping up that there's more than one way to train a dog. That's ridiculous, okay? This is where we're at in the dog training world. Like the truth is subjective, okay? There's no defined process. And that doesn't make sense. And then if you layer this up with all the problems inherent in the dog training world, you start to make the connection. So of course, these trainers are going to get very upset when I say that, no, there is specific criteria. Here it is. And then you can just, make the connections from there. Look at all the blame shifting. Now, one trainer is going on about, well, you don't need to use a leash that way. Okay, so in terms of influence and control, well, I again profiled a trainer's way by way of just like Cesar Millan. This is why again I showcased the Showdown with Holly method. Okay, the Showdown with Holly video, which really serves as a great example as to if it's not, again, if influence and control are not tied in terms of revealing, okay, in real time. This is where I talk about being dialed in, okay, the interplay of influence and control in terms of speaking the right language to reveal, okay, so you don't get blindsided. And so that whole blindsiding thing with Cesar is an example of that. And then again, I profile other situations through my Flipping the Script series. And then again, you see his trainer standing there getting a dog to wait for their food. Again, I talk about that. You go over and you start to bring a dog under intentional control. These same dogs will launch into high challenge. Okay, why is that? Right. So understand these trainers are all working off the same premise, the same assumptions. Now, again, this all defaults right back to that question I have pinned to the top of my Facebook page. I call it the question of the century because that really speaks to the truth as to what is going on in the dog training world. It's a question, but it's also a statement at the same time in terms of what's the criteria, okay, these trainers are using to establish that the perceptions of dogs are changing the way that they think they are, at the level they think they are. What's the criteria? Because again, that same question, whether it's a loose leash method, whether it's Cesar Millan-like way, what is it? Okay, it goes to the heart of everything. These trainers should be able to answer it. But see, that's the problem. It can only be answered by way of, again, of a very specific process where those two core ingredients are reconciled. That's it. And again, how you want to look at it is the same example. That's why I talk about the parenting example. When's truth revealed, right? By way of a selfish child and a bad attitude. It brings the focus onto the parent, right? It's when a demand, right? So I talk about influence and control. It's the demand put on a child. It's like, hey, pick up your toys, right? It's that, in close and personal conversation. So again, I talk about certain themes. I talk about this intentional interaction-based approach. It's speaking a language, okay? It's a conversation with the dog. It's the interplay of that. So understand all these trainers that have all this stuff to say, they're not dialed in that way, okay? It's very specific, and these trainers are not dialed into the relationship that way. They're not dialed into the dog's state of mind that way. Those core ingredients are not reconciled through that conversation that way, all of it. So again, I put out, there's a very specific criteria and defined through a process, and that's it, okay? That's how you're able to assess, but also change when it comes to a relationship problem. Thanks for watching.